Kendra, going to other people's place, and like riding a horse, breaking horses in.
And I love going mustering because I love horse riding, and just playing outside mainly. Since we have so much space out in the house paddock, we have our own pretend cattle property. I like to go and help Dad dig out dams and the truck and bulldozer.
It's very, very nice. I just love living in the country.
My enjoyment is being able to produce an animal and know that that animal has had a lovely life. I want to be able to say that I've produced a very healthy, happy animal.
I really, really like this landscape type. I like the fact that you can drive around all day and not see the boundary and not drive over the same road twice. That to me is good. You can stretch out and not worry about running into somebody else in the process.
We love being a part of a small community where you know people when you walk down the street.
We're only here because we love the lifestyle, not because we make money, because it's only heartache. If you think you're going to make money, you can't. That's why we both work off land.
As with everyone, I think, involved in agriculture at this time, we all wonder whether it would be viable because of the input cost issues we struggle with every day and the profitability issues that we struggle with every day.
One of the challenges that we see at the moment is largely the consumer is motivated by price sensitivity.
It would seem that for some reason people on the land aren't paid a lot of money for their produce, which seems strange because if you don't eat, you don't last long.
Cattle prices need to go up. Then the person who's in the city, I went and bought my first piece of steak the other day. When I sat down and tried to work out how many steaks are in a beast, someone's making money, but it's not us.
You know, the reality is we have to face the communities, we are losing farmers. And that to me is just a national tragedy. And with that loss goes the expertise. Any children seem to drift towards the east. There's also a social problem there in that you become very isolated, communities wind down.
As a community and from a land care point of view, I think we need to continue to be aware of the spread of weeds, in particular noxious weeds.
The feral pest issue is looming. We've got increasing numbers of wild dogs caught here every year and increasing pressure on our calves. They're very hard to control. I know there's a lot of people out there trying now as the numbers are getting bigger, but it's certainly our most prevalent issue at the moment.
Our farming lands are extremely important. We've had some challenges over the last 5 and 6 years. Certainly 3 major floods through our particularly Condamine and Border River systems. We are still recovering to some degree from some of that impact.
We are tackling issues that are difficult to tackle. You don't want to see soil degradation. You don't want to drive around and see introduced pest species and soil erosion as such. The other issue is the economic point of view, and we can't afford, with the way returns are in the bush now, you need every acre working for you, and we can't afford to have areas that aren't working for us.
It's important that we protect our Australian farmers, and to do that we need to buy Australian grown. So that is important to support Australian farmers, and if people in the cities are aware of that and that they look out to buy Australian grown instead of buying foreign produce, that would make such a difference to our market and to our viability.
People have been encouraged to expand, take on more land, basically work harder, stretch themselves harder, so the lifestyle thing's pretty well gone.
I think the unpredictability of the climate is going to have an underlying stressor. It's not something that people will identify readily. It makes it difficult for people to plan properly. They still plan, but they get some adverse outcomes.
The big thing too, the last 2 years to sort of 2.5 years has been the drought out here. It's seen really tough times for a lot of people, and some people saying it's the worst they've seen in their lifetime.
Having to deal with the issues like the coal seam gas, seeing central Queensland, good country in central Queensland going under mining things, it does take a toll, and I think we need a lot of help from outside in in really giving us a framework of how it's going to work, because I see those resources as something all of Australia should share, and I don't think they are, and they're not sharing them at the cost of some farming families, which is not fair.
The whole story for farmers is one towards bigger uncertainties and bigger shocks through the climate system, but we can manage for that. There is so much we can do to handle that uncertainty as well.
In terms of the future, I'd love there to be more opportunities for younger people.
We're well aware of the changes that we need to make to adapt to climate change, to what resources we are using and what we're taking away from the farm when we're cropping, and from the use of our cattle. So we try to protect and sustain our soil to be able to be productive for our children and our grandchildren in 20 years.
We were very close to selling, and I think George saw one of the little boys riding his pony past the house and then the other one following on the four-wheeler, and he just went, oh. And it was hard for him because he realised, well, where else could the children get that opportunity to have freedom to make their own choices, to enjoy what they want to enjoy instead of being locked up in a house.
The more family-operated farming operations there are, the better. They are the most efficient way to farm Australia, because they're people who know the area, they're people who are passionate about it. And I finished up back here because of that, and I've never regretted one moment. I feel very lucky to be able to do it, and I think my family feel the same way.
Across the Border Rivers, Marinale Blonde catchments, we have 9 traditional owner groups that have an interest in the area. Their ancestors have worked and lived off these lands and developed natural resource management activities for each of these areas to ensure that sustainable living can come on from looking after the land, caring for the land.
Australia is a land of extremes. Floods one year, drought the next. That's Australia. You can't change that. This is a bit antagonistic to the European style thinking, but try and fit yourself to the landscape, not fit the landscape to you. Because to my way of thinking, if you look around, and if you honestly do look around and be honest about it, it's not working how most of us are doing it. It's not working. It has to become a religion, a day-to-day way of thinking. The way we think now is to make as many dollars out of it, and then if it stops working, sell it to some other poor bugger and get out. For the long-term attitude, that's a defeating way to do it.
The issues we're dealing with are mistakes we've made in the past. I just look in my district and see the projects that have been done, and it's extraordinary the changes made. And I think people are responding to challenges because there's some help.
For us, our bottom line on this place was to leave it in better shape than when we got it, which it is. It sort of went from a flogged out, treeless place. Like we planted about over 10,000 trees, which in the scheme of things is not a lot, but it's a start. And we tend to want to plant more, so we pretty well do that off our own bat. And then, our soils are getting better, our pastures are getting better, our production and our systems are getting better. So, and I'm sure most farmers to still be viable and still be here have done the same thing or doing the same things.
We're all farmers out here, and we just work so hard and work long hours and put so much pride into what we produce. We like our clean produce, we like our animals to be well and healthy, and we want people to have the best food that we can provide.
I think the most important thing is to try and look after it and educate the children to look after it the way that we know at the moment. It may change in 20 years' time. At the moment, how we know to look after it is what we've got to try and do our best. And the best is looking after the soil. You've got to start from the soil first and move our way up. Like, I think we've all been taught to make money out of cattle and look after the cows, but I think to look after the cows, you need to look after the soil first.
Managing the land is not a 2-year, 3-year, 10-year apprenticeship. It is a lifetime apprenticeship. We, as the land managers, are the custodians of this landscape for everyone else on the planet.
I think that if we can learn to manage our landscapes well now, then the future generations will benefit from that.
As far as making the place more sustainable in the future, our idea is to live with nature, not to try and create an environment that we think is going to be the most productive. You've got a better chance of doing a better job if you're enjoying what you're doing.
We can put in place intelligent cropping practices and grazing practices. We can turn to the field of genetics for more resilient and robust plants that can perform under those conditions. And we can have supply chains and production systems that can handle that climate variability. So yes, it's on its way, but it isn't going to cripple us.
We do need to maintain our environment. Without a healthy environment, we can't farm. Without a healthy environment, my grandchildren won't be sitting on the veranda watching the birds in 30 years' time.